Hi, everybody. Thanks for clicking Tiffany Box Feelings. I'm your host, Chan. Subscribe. That's first. Secondly, I'm on Twitter at Tiffany Box Feels. Tiffany Box Feels. Yes, I know my hat is going to give me a shadow. Yes, I know that there's a logo up here that nobody wears, but this is my go-to hat. I am kind of a loyalist. I refuse to let the hat go. I also have another hat that you may have seen on other blogs, and it's a New York hat. I can't let it go. My baby girl gave it to me, and it has like the lacy thing on the back. Some things I can let go of a lot of things. Let's straighten that face change, right? But some things I just don't want to let go of, I guess. So now Melissa Perry, and if a lot of people, Melissa Harris Perry, excuse me. If you don't know who she is, she worked for MSNBC. She had she's a journalist, and I guess you can call it a black anchor, African American anchor show. So she says MSNBC started doing things like excluding her, cutting her out of things, giving positions or opportunities to people that she should have had the opportunities, or numerous things that you kind of can't put your finger on, but you know what's kind of going on. And she was on The View explaining it. I kind of had already got wind of the story, and I was just happy that she got up and just left. She kind of just said, you know what, I can do you one better. What you won't do is devalue me and kind of just, we're going to fade you to the back. No, I'm going to get up and walk away. I know my value, and I know that someone else will pick me up. And what I liked more than anything about all of that is when she's on The View and she's talking about her ordeal, she says, I have a mortgage like anyone else, but what I won't do is be your mammy, your black bobblehead, and so forth. And I really thought that spoke volumes, because a lot of people will do anything, which we call riding the wave, right? Or grasping at straws to stay relevant, stay in the limelight, so-called get a check, or just to, I guess it would be relevant, just to say they know, or who they, and all of this other stuff. And people at the peak of their careers, at the height of their careers, who have so much more to lose than just everyday people who are grasping at straws or riding the wave, she got up and walked away. She was not going to be devalued or told, you're putting too many issues on the table. Anytime people bring up things that's not comfortable for other people or so forth, people have issues, and it can be said that, well, if she has this happen somewhere else, then it's her. No, it could be the group think thing that, you're supposed to be seen and not heard in order for others to put their agenda forthcoming or to shine. And I'm going to help you shine, but just fade to the back, right? I was just happy to see that she stood for something. Like, I don't know where my next check is going to come from. I'm sure someone will pick me up because I show that I can produce, but what you're not going to do is degrade me and do it in this manner. Then MSNBC went on to release her emails and release a partial email. And this is something that we've seen in the African American community, or amongst different groupthink people. We're going to slander or drag you before you can drag us, and so forth. But if anyone with a brain can figure there's his, hers, and the truth, let's get to the middle of it, could see what they were doing. They were trying to, I can't say slander, because they didn't slander her. They just gave a partial truth. People tend to do that. They always want to give the partial truth, right? So she goes ahead and bites the bullet. People are never ready for that. She released the whole email. Here's the thing. She thought the email was going to stay within the company, and it wasn't for the news. It wasn't for other news groups. It was for just that office. And someone released it. So she said, I can do you one better. I'm going to tell you, I have nothing to hide. full disclosure, this is what I wrote. By the way, MSNBC, I'm not your mammy. For those who don't know, mammy is just like was the slave or more or less person who took care of the little children running around the plantation, sometimes their own children, or, took care of the master and their children or whoever they were at the time, and you were a mammy. And I always reference things because these are things that we kind of need to know just so that you'll never have it slip and you don't know what someone's saying to you or what you're being called. Always look up everything. But her name is Melissa Harris Perry, and the term mammy and the black bobblehead, and which is like an airhead. It's just like, okay, it's one of those things. She has great work history, great work ethic. Her accolades are many, and you're going to treat me as such. So it was just great to kind of check that story. And with that, the next topic, she kind of put me in the mind with all of this with George Lopez and Arsenio Hall. George Lopez always says, if you don't know who that is, it's a Hispanic, a Latino gentleman, older gentleman, who was a comedian who wound up with the George Lopez shows. He's had many shows, but he had a talk show. And he says that when he went in, they never even notified him he didn't have a job. He kind of just got there and they were like, yeah, we won't be doing this. You can't touch certain topics without people, especially when you work for someone. Dame Dash, I always reference great minds. Dame Dash always says this, especially when you work for someone. And I'm going to say this in many levels of work. When someone owns you, they pay your rent, they can tell you what you're going to do on a job, whether it's right or wrong, and you have to do it because you need to feed and so forth and so forth. They generally will treat you like crap. Let me just say that. And George Lopez touched many topics that maybe people didn't want to touch, have guests on that people didn't want to see on mass, didn't appeal to a certain demographic of America, whatever, right? And he had a tendency of kind of putting things in their face and calling them out of their name. Someone doesn't want to pay you for you to tell them that they're not fair. So they'll kind of just fade you to the back instead of standing in the truth and saying, you know what, let's work this out and let me see what we can do to make this better because you are beneficial to our team, or we're sorry. And they just figured they could pick someone else up. I don't know who their late night was. This was ABC. I don't even know who their late night was. Then it put me in the mind also of Arsenio Hall, who had a show 20 years ago, I want to say. He said apparently the show wasn't doing the ratings or the guests that he was having on or whatever his reasons was for him putting in his resignation. He didn't care for some things. He said he chose to walk away. All we know is that as viewers, we saw a certain Honorable Minister Farrakhan go on, and the next day Arsenio wasn't on. He said that was not true to this day, but there was some uncomfortable situations with the network he was with. Then he comes out, he has another show 20 years later, and lo and behold, guess what, people? He's gone. Now, they say it's for ratings, but when you're in that industry, you also know that there is a bidding process. There's people who will buy this show from this company, or he can transition to another channel, and there's so many options if people really want you. And when you watch his show and you look at what he was promoting and who he was having on and what he was talking about, there kind of starts to be a common thread, a common denominator somewhere, that you can't keep saying that people of color, because that ranges a lot of people, are imagining this anymore. You understand? But people who are financial bullies, power bullies, and all of those things that encompass that, tend to kind of want to drag the other person. I won't say smaller, because those three people are big in their own right. Will kind of drag the other person just to kind of keep their image up. But with those three as examples, I say They're great in their own right. They can make it all over again. That is always Tiffany Box Feelings motto. You can always do it again if you've done it once. And, no one can make them. You can't make greatness. You're a unique thing. All three of those things are unique in its own right. So now the industry is seeing a horrific change. Everybody's grasping at straws. Everybody's trying to mix in places they've never been before, with groups that they've never been in, around people and things that they've never entertained on their station before. They're grasping at straws. Let's see if this works. Let's see if we can go over here and do this. Let's see. Everybody's grasping at straws. But those three unique things will never have to grasp at straws, because they do uniquely what they do. And without me, you'll have to find the next great thing, and you might be grasping at straws for a long time. That's how things sink, right? They might be grasping for a long time. This might sound like a little bit of rambling. Take your time, break it down, play it back, see if anything in there clicks for you, and maybe you'll be the next great, unique thing, because I'm yours. Listen, people, I'll see you next week. There's probably another video up, unless I'm editing it. I've been editing. It took me a long time to get this video up, because I've been editing and being a mom and trying to deal with some other stuff in the house and trying to relocate and acclimate myself to Georgia, and, decide where you want to get a house at and things like that. So got a full, heavy, functional life going on. Editing a video is taking me a little longer than I thought. But there might be another video up you can click to, or, just catch me next week. But if you subscribe, you can click on it anytime you want. See you next week, people.